Correctional Services Commissioner Makgothi Thobakgale led a raid at the Kgoši Mampuru prison in Pretoria last night. It forms part of a crackdown at jails aimed at rooting out corruption and criminal activities, and he now joins us for more on this. Commissioner, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. I want to start off with one of the stories that we are leading with this morning is that of Cat Matlala, who is being housed currently at the CMEX section of the Kgoši Mampuru Correctional Services Centre. Can you just quickly explain to us, Commissioner, what informed that rationale?
Well, good morning. Good morning to your viewers. Cat Matlala is at the CMEX Correctional Facility because of a reclassification. He is classified as high risk. But also, secondly, we continue to do searches, especially these types of searches that we did last night. On Sunday morning, we did a surprise search and we found a cell phone in his possession.
This was on Sunday, this past Sunday?
Yes.
And he would have been at which prison at the time?
At that time, he was in a section called local. So that's basically a section that is a section that houses medium to low risk. He was at medium local.
Yeah, and have you been able to ascertain how he was able to get his cell phone into the prison cells, considering that part of the raid as well, we've seen, even with other correctional centres, is that contraband is found on some prisoners?
Well, we are busy with that investigation. And we will, once we are very clear about how it happened, be able to pronounce. But remember, when we find objects like cell phones, and in cases that are high risk like this one, we hand the object over to the South African Police Service. So that is what we have done immediately on the same day.
Yeah, and would this be the work that is being done by the Correctional Centre in conjunction with the Political Killings Task Team? Because we understand that the Correctional Service is also one of the supporting entities.
Well, we do surprise checks independently as the department. We also have joint operations with the South African Police Service. In this instance, it was a surprise search that we did as the department. And after uncovering the device, we then contacted SAPS and they came and collected it.
Yeah, and I just want to still stick with this, Correctional Commissioner, before we move on to the broader raid that took place. The Political Killings Task Team that was set up by the Interministerial Committee, there was the announcement that was made by the Minister of Police that task team would be disbanded, at least from the SEP side of it. But was there conversation that took place with correctional services as well about that decision?
Well, we were not part of the task team, number one. Number two, we are part of the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster. And as I've indicated, we do our work, and where we need to partner with other departments in the cluster, we do so.
Yeah. Oh, wait, does that then mean that the former Minister of Police was mistaken when he released a statement that this task team includes the South African Police Service, NPA, supported by the State Security Agency and Correctional Services?
Well, remember, I just said that we are part of the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster. So all the task teams and the work that is done in the cluster, we will be in the know of and we will participate as and when.
Yeah.
But I have indicated to you that we do our work, and where we need to partner, with departments in the cluster, we do so. So it would not be appropriate to say that the minister was not correct. The minister is the chairperson of the Justice, Crime, Prevention and Security Cluster. He's a co-chairperson of the cluster as the prime coordinator of the cluster.
All right. And then finally, before we move on from this one, the Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the Provincial Police Commissioner in KZN on Sunday when he had his press briefing, spoke about a syndicate in Gauteng, and amongst the entities that were listed there is correctional services, that there are people within correctional services that are working with these syndicates. Do you have any light that you can share with us with regards to that? Is there any investigation about this particular syndicate?
Well, that is the information that the South African Police Service has, information that is informed by their investigation. The details of those investigations have not been shared with us. As I want to repeat again, what we do is when we are called upon to provide support or provide information or contribute to an investigation, we do so, and we do so as and when. So it's the information that is in the purview of the South African Police Service, and we do not do joint investigations or interfere in the investigations of the South African Police Service.
All right. Let's then move to yesterday's or last night's raid into the early hours of this morning. Tell us about some of the contraband that was confiscated.
Well, we went through just more than 20 cells. We went through 676 offenders in other sections. If you add the 186 that we went through at the CMAX, you will then notice that we went through more than 770 inmates, and we found more than 105 cell phones. I'm saying this because the tally before we went to BMAX and CMAX was at 103, and at BMAX was at 104, and BMAX we found one cell phone, and at CMAX we did not find any contrabands at all. But in other sections, as I've indicated, local, where you have more than 2,000 offenders in communal cells, that's where we found most of the cell phones, more than 100, and that's where we found Dacha, that's where we found Mendres, that's where we found crystal meth and also sharp objects.
Yeah, and now the investigation, and I guess a lot of people would be asking themselves as well, considering that here we're also speaking about the Kgoši Mampuru Correctional Centre, which also has the CMAX part, and I understand what you say, that with the CMAX part, no contraband was found there. But how was this contraband able to get into that facility?
We always explain that there are different ways. For instance, this morning, the inmates that are supposed to go to court, that are remandees, will go to court. And when they come back with contrabands. We search them, but some of them, as we have indicated, are able to hide these contrabands in their bodies. We utilize body scanners, but we have a few of those in the country. The total number is actually 17, and if you compare 17 body scanners with 200 correctional services, you can see the capacity there that it is far less. And then you have contrabands coming through, those that come and visit. Now, remanded detainees get visitors any time of the week. You also have visitors that come over the weekends for sentenced offenders. And then we have also correctional services officials who try and participate in the smuggling activities. Apart from that, we have farms and we have correctional facilities that are in the proximity of settlements. And members of the community who are participating in these criminal syndicates always try by all means to, scale our fences and try and throw these contrabands over. So there are a number of ways, and we are able to get to know how a particular cell phone, for instance, made it through after we would have gained access to that cell phone, and we've been able to see or observe the conversations or the numbers that are being called. We also interview the offenders themselves, and in most instances, they do divulge to us who has assisted them to get cell phones into our facilities. And in instances where it is our officials, we follow that through with disciplinary processes, and we also open criminal cases with the South African Police Service.
Yeah, and I remember even, Commissioner, with the Baviaanspoort raid as well, what came out of that was the allegation of prisoners who have access to this contraband, now speaking about specifically the cell phones, being able to scam people while doing all of that from prison.
Well, yes, we did receive a tip-off that there is a number of offenders. So far, with our investigations, we've been able to identify 9. But upon getting the tip-off, we immediately went to search Baviaanspoort correctional facility, and we found the cell phones that they were utilizing in doing this criminal work. We also identified them. We have interviewed them, and the information is pointing us to a wider investigation that we have to do at Baviaanspoort. It's also pointing us at management changes that we have to do there, but also the disciplinary processes that will have to follow, given the information that we have already received. Again, on this case, because it involves criminality, we are going to be working with the South African Police Service on it.
All right. And just a quick final one, Commissioner, the Correctional Services Portfolio Committee had a sitting not so long ago. I think it was on Monday, and what came out of it was the issue around the 25,000 inmates currently in our prisons, and the chairperson of the committee saying that around 13,000 rand per month is spent on inmates in generally, which means that 25,000 times 13,000 per month then also has to house the foreign nationals. What's the conversation that is currently taking place that would inform policy around how to deal with this issue?
Well, at the moment, there are 3 conversations taking place. The first conversation is on interim measures, and that is a submission that as the department we are preparing to go through to cabinet as to what is it that can be done in the immediate. Why? Because of the second conversation, which is that South Africa doesn't have enabling legislation for interstate transfer of offenders, because if we had that, it would be easy for us to simply transfer these offenders to their countries of origin and they serve their sentences there. It is a complex kind of legislation because different countries or countries have different sentencing regimes. For instance, if you take an example of Botswana, they have the death penalty. We don't have the death penalty in South Africa. So those are the intricacies that we have to go through to get legislation on course. We've already started, and that's the conversation number 3, is as to whether we have a stand-alone legislation or we amend the current Correctional Services Act to include provisions that would make it possible for the interstate transfers to happen. At the moment, especially with the SADC countries, there is a general agreement that the route of signing, MOUs or instruments that we can utilize to transfer offenders is actually a way that we can explore that can alleviate the problem in the short to medium term. However, we have to also note that we operate under a culture of human rights, a universal culture of human rights. There is an element of engaging also with the offenders themselves with regards to this matter. Although as South Africa, we have argued that in as much as we engage to inform, we don't engage to get consent. And because it's a security matter, we view security considerations as considerations that will weigh above any other consideration in executing the transfers. So we are on the verge of getting a solution to this matter, albeit the fact that we still have to go through legislation review processes.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Makgothi Thobakgale